It was 5 months ago when the leaders of the United States and Cuba announced a new effort to restore diplomatic relations. That meant reopening embassies for the first time in more than half a century. But in the time that's passed, critics say not much has actually been accomplished. Some say it's simply a matter of quiet diplomacy going on behind the scenes. Others say it's a sign of unanticipated consequences. CCTV's Michael Voss has insight.
Elaine, I think it's a mix of both. There have been two big sticking points, one on either side. Cuba insists it can't open an embassy in Washington as long as it's on the list of state sponsors of terrorism. The United States wants no limits to the number of diplomats it can have in Havana and the right to travel freely around the island. One of these is about to be resolved. Cuba will shortly come off the list of state sponsors of terrorism. But the question of what the American diplomats will get up to in Cuba may be what's been holding things up.
Cubans took to the streets last December 17th to celebrate the news that one of the last leftover conflicts from the Cold War was coming to an end.
Today, the United States of America is changing its relationship with the people of Cuba.
The joint announcement with Cuba's President Raul Castro to restore diplomatic relations took everyone by surprise. Within weeks, the chief U.S. negotiator, Roberta Jacobson, was leading talks in Havana. In February, her Cuban counterpart, Josefina Vidal, traveled to Washington for round two. Then came the historic meeting and handshake during a regional summit in Panama. And a few days later, President Barack Obama announced that he'd take Cuba off the terror list. That was a month ago, and then it all went silent. No third round of negotiations, no statements, nothing. Until Tuesday, when President Castro spoke to the media.
It is going well, but at our own pace. Many ask and criticize us for going too slowly. Why should we run? To make mistakes?
The U.S. already has a sizable diplomatic presence, including consular services, known as the U.S. Interest Section. President Castro is worried about what will happen once it's expanded into an embassy.
Cuba has long accused U.S. diplomats based here of encouraging and funding dissidents on the island. It's contrary, they claim, to the Vienna Convention, which says diplomats must not interfere in a country's internal affairs.
We are simply saying that we all have to abide by the accord on the behavior of diplomats around the world. What concerns me the most is that they continue to do the illegal things they are doing now, which they have been doing up to date.
It would be a pity that we start the embassies and suddenly we have a crisis provoked by the presence of the embassies.
Carlos Alzugaray is Cuba's former ambassador to the European Union and a professor of international relations at Havana University.
So they have to behave. They claim that the Vienna Convention gives them the right to meet everyone. That's fine. Meeting everyone, it's their responsibility. But what is the purpose of their meeting people? Is only to get information, a sense of the situation? That's fine. But is it to influence public opinion in Cuba or certain political and social actors to do something? This is what the United States has done in the past.
There are still other serious outstanding issues between the two countries. Havana wants to see an end to the decades-old trade embargo, while Washington wants the return of some 70 U.S. fugitives who are currently living in Cuba. Both sides have agreed that these and other issues are best resolved after their embassies are reopened, whenever that may be.
Elaine, we do appear to be getting tantalizingly closer. The next round of negotiations could take place in Washington as early as next week. And President Raul Castro has said that once they are off the terror list, which should be after May the 29th, then they'll be ready to name their ambassadors.
The effects of restored diplomatic ties between the U.S. and Cuba are already being felt. We asked Michael Voss about that.
Elaine, it does appear as if the rest of the world is scrambling to get a foot in the door here in Cuba before the Americans arrive. Just a few days ago, France's President, Francois Hollande, paid the first state visit of a French head of state to come to Cuba since it gained independence from Spain in the 1890s. In the last 2 weeks alone, we've had the Japanese foreign minister with a business delegation, the Dutch foreign minister with a business delegation, a British trade mission here, everyone looking to see if there are any business opportunities coming up. But I think you also have to look at what Cuba wants to get out of these new relationships. And I think there are some very hard economic facts here. Cuba's closest ally, biggest trading partner, Venezuela, its economy is in crisis at the moment. And Venezuela provides Cuba with much of its oil at preferential rates. So Cuba is looking to expand its allies, to expand partners around the world. Again, in the last week, President Raul Castro, who isn't known for traveling abroad very much, went to Moscow, to Red Square, to attend the Victory Day celebrations with President Putin there. On the way, he stopped off in Algeria, a country that has oil. And on the way back, he went to the Vatican to thank the Pope for his help in this historic rapprochement, if you like, between the United States and Cuba.